morning, everybody. It's Jean here, Jean Truelove from Truelove Quilts for You. I have finally finished quilting my Dresden plate quilt, and now I'm just going to do a little video on how I choose my binding. Not a lot going on. I'm just going to choose my binding, and I'm telling you right now, I'm having a difficult time choosing my binding. Here is my quilt that after I talk. I'm going to show you. I had Maxwell hold the camera to video me just securing the edges of my Dresden plate quilt. That's all. I was stitching and he got real close. I didn't realize he got that close. You must excuse me. And then me just cutting the backing and the batting off. No big deal. It's silly. I'm inching away at this quilt, picking away at it inch by inch, literally. It's a large quilt, but it is all quilted. I'm really thrilled about that. And as you know, if you've been following, I was using 2 layers of batting because I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to be making this heavy, really warm quilt. Well, it is a heavy, warm quilt. However, truth be told, it's not incredibly heavy. I'm sure it's going to be very warm, but it just goes to show, I believe, and I think backed up by some of you when I asked, is batting getting thinner? Is it heavier than a quilt I made 15 years ago with batting? Yes, it is, definitely. But I think if I had used 2 layers of batting 15 years ago, that would have been a really heavy quilt. You know, newsflash, batting is getting much thinner. So I did use 2 layers, but it's just a nice quality quilt now. Crazy. So now I'm going to go figure out how to, what fabrics I'm going to use to bind this. And I'll put that down. I'll put it down, but my next step is to curve my corners, as you know. People who've been following me, you know that this is what I do. I've done a million tutorials on my binding, how I do it. Again, I'm a bit of a one-trick pony. I sew it to the back, I stitch it to the front, and I curve my corners. I curve my corners, I do it freehand, just a gentle curve. You could, if you chose to, you can use a plate or a bowl or something like that to create the curve. I do it freehand. I've been doing it. My quilt, I fold it in half lengthwise, and then I fold it in half widthwise. My quilt, my corners match up beautifully. I'm saying my quilt is lovely and square. It really is. I've never really had any problem with my quilt not being square. There's that side there. There's that side there, and it's lovely and square. So I don't know what that means about squaring up a quilt. Because once I sew them, my quilt is nice and square. So I'm going to be choosing the binding for my lovely quilt, and as I said, I pulled some fabrics, and it's not quite as straightforward as I thought. But I have a story I got to tell you. Oh my word! On I don't know what day it is today. I had a dentist appointment. My bad. I haven't been to the dentist in 5 years. And my teeth are great, actually. It was interesting. No cavities, no decay, nothing. I have a few crowns that are going wonky and a few silver fillings. Anyway, they were very surprised. The dentist was very surprised at, like, oh wow, your teeth are for my age are fairly good. I floss and I brush regularly. Anyway, went to the dentist about 25 minutes away, and as you know, I have pretty much sat in this house for the last 10 months, right? So, the day I choose to go to the dentist, I was anxious and nervous. What has this done to me, right? I'm like, oh my word. So my husband Ian and Maxwell said, we'll go with you, Mom. We'll go with you, Jean. So I said, oh, thank you. So I drove in my little car, my new little car. My new car is about, what, 3 months old, has like 40 miles on it or something ridiculous. No, a couple 100 miles on it because I don't go anywhere, right? So I'm all excited. I got dressed. I actually curled my hair. I thought, oh, what does life come down to, right? I'm going to the dentist. Anyway, we're driving, And all of a sudden, my husband's phone, I had turned my phone off, my husband's phone, there's an emergency warning, tornado warning, not a watch, tornado warning, flash floods, thunder, lightning. Well, all of a sudden, we're halfway there, and the rain came down. I thought, oh my word, oh my word. So I'm driving on a highway, I'm driving, and it's pelting down, and the thunder, the lightning, and I'm thinking, that's my luck, right? All the days I've sat in this house for 10 months, and the day I choose to go out, right? And the heavens opened up, and the wind, and I thought, oh no. And then we're 20 minutes from our home, which, as you know, has flooded, and I'll let you know what's going on there. I'm thinking, oh no, oh no, oh no. So I get to the dentist office. I'm going to the dentist, right? I don't want to go to the dentist. I haven't been to the dentist in 5 years, right? I go on the worst day. I really did I just started to pray for calm, just calm. I can do this. Deep breathing, I'm very much into that. I just sort of empty my brain and fill it with like peace and just calm, and it was for a cleaning and a descaling, which is like not hard, but it worked. I just breathed. I really did feel everything was okay, because I was a nervous wreck. I as I said, I used to be brave. I'm not that brave anymore, but I got through that. We got out the door of the dentist. I have some dental work coming up. We got out the door, and there was like tornadoes. I mean, the wind and the rain, and we ran to the car, and I'm sitting there, and I like to drive. I'm okay driving, and my husband drives 1 million miles every year, literally almost. I drive a couple hundred, so I always drive. I enjoy driving, and so I'm like, I'm okay. It was abating us slightly. But we are on a road, we are on a junction of roads that, the one road near us, the mainer road, always floods. I don't know what it is, and as you know, our house has flooded. Not our home, our property has flooded about 6 months ago, and I was talking about that. And I put a video up, and I'm going to, you might be wondering what's going on, because we were talking about, my son, who owns this home, was talking about raising our home. That is proving to be a very, I mean, he knew it, but a very expensive proposition. Tens and tens and tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars. And also FEMA, because we are in a flood zone, FEMA has come in with some grants and things like that, but the paperwork, I don't know what's going to go on. That's all in the process of. But what happened is, and I'm going to put some video up if you're interested, is of the flooding that we had on our property. We've only had, this property is 80 years old, as you know. It's only flooded 3 times, one catastrophic. And then the waters receded 6 months ago. It didn't do any harm, but it's very concerning. Anyway, we have a bridge about, whatever it was, a couple hundred yards away that I'll take a picture of in the summertime. Well, that is sort of maybe the cause of the problem. Well, we just got a message, a letter in our letterbox the other day that, go figure, the bridge is going to be replaced. Starting December the 7th. Our bridge is right here. It's interesting because the bridge is there, and we're not on a busy road, although it is a yellow line, but there is enough traffic to connect from this area to over here. It's interesting, we never, ever, ever go left at our driveway. We always go right at our driveway. So that bridge closing will not affect us whatsoever, and it's going to be closed from December to April. I don't know if, our one son said, there's no way they can build that bridge in 6 months or 5 months time. No way. Replace the bridge, whatever. But I'm like, it's okay. It doesn't affect us whatsoever. As a matter of fact, it will make our road here, there's only 2 other homes here to the main road, or sort of a main road. it will make this area like a cul-de-sac. So Maxwell will be able to drive his quad around on that road and into our driveway. Anyway, so that's it. So hopefully the flooding situation will be taken care of because the county, this area is flood prone, right? So that may be a big thing. But coming back to the other night, so I was calm. I had my teeth clean. I'm all nice and shiny, you know, like got my teeth done. I come down the road that floods, but they always put up the barricade sign. Road floods. So you have to go all the way around the houses to get to the back way to this home. So I turned down the road. Had been torrential rain, and there's another little old bridge, and all of a sudden, I'm driving my small little car. I notice, I'm like, I realize that the cars ahead are stopped or going slow. Then all of a sudden, my lights picked up. The road is flooded, rushing flood water. And Ian said, stop. He said, just stop. Well, there's cars right behind me, like a big, huge SUV, like, oh, I could go through there. Ian said, stop, because it goes into sort of like a swamp woodland, and we know about rushing water. You don't go near it, right? So he said, just stop, which I did, and he says, put it in reverse. Well, I'm like, the guy's right behind me. He says, put the car in reverse. They'll have to move. We are not going any further. So I'm like, okay. And I have to be brave for Maxwell in the back. I'm like, okay, I can do this. So I put the car in reverse. Do you think this guy would move? He eventually did, because Ian says, just keep backing up, back up, because the water is rushing. I mean, this area floods, right? And he's like, and we have a little car. I have a little car. I can just imagine me like, you know, you're never going to see me again. You know, there goes the Trueloves into the creek, right? So it's a 2-lane road with big ditches, which they have dug, I guess for the floodwaters. I don't know, whatever. So I put it in reverse, and I'm inching, and I'm in the waters coming up and up. I'm inching my way. The guy had to back up to let me. By that time, there's about 4 cars, and it's dark. I just see lights and shiny water. Well, all of a sudden, I know the road. It's a 2-lane road with these ditches. And Ian says, he says, let me drive. And I'm like, no, I mean, you're going to get flooded away. I was in this situation. So I maneuvered like a 5-point turn. I just was inching it. He says, don't, let them wait. So all of a sudden, I go back, and all of a sudden, the front wheels go into the ditch. Slightly. I'm like, oh, I could feel the car going into the ditch. There's rushing water. I'm like, and Ian says, put your foot on the brake. Fortunately, our car is a 4-wheel drive. He says, just put it in reverse, and sort of gun it. And I did, and it just popped out of the ditch enough that I could go backwards. I could go back the other way. Oh, didn't the guy in the SUV, he was annoyed, plowed right on through. I don't know, he's still in the woods somewhere. I don't know, because it's really bad. Anyway, by the time everybody else started to turn around, by the time we get all the way around, I mean, it's a big detour. The road is sort of a main corridor between here and here. So by the time we went all the way around, we come in the back way, and it's just that road right up at the top of ours. And sure enough, there's the police lights, barricades, everything. So I don't know, there must be cars in there, whatever. Then the water recedes fairly quickly, but that was the tale. That was my little story. Oh my word, I was like nervous as anything. I got back, I had done so well. I walked in, and Ian was he gave me a hug. He's like, oh, you did so well. I kept my cool. I walked in this house. Oh, I'm thinking, is our house going to be flooded? It wasn't. And he said, it's going to be okay. And it was fine. But there had been tornadoes touching down. I literally walked in our front door. I burst out crying. I had like a meltdown. And I'm like, I need a drink. I don't really drink all that much. I have the occasional beer or a Guinness. I'm like, I need a drink. I need to drink. And I had a cup of tea. And I sat down. I thought, oh, of all the days, right? Of all the days, my luck. Anyway, I'm working on my quilt. That's my little tale of woe. That was terrible. I'm working on my quilt. I'm going to put my camera up and show you my process to try to find a binding for this quilt. It's not as easy as I thought it was going to be. Usually it's quite straightforward, but it's not. So I'm going to put my camera over there, and at the end of this little video is Maxwell just filming me. And then when I cut the backing and the batting off, no big deal. I'm just working this slowly, but I am back into my sewing room a little bit. But yeah, so there's my story. That was a scary story. So again, I'm gonna show you some of the little pictures of the bridge again that I've done in the summertime, because that's my, hopefully that will put an end to or help the flooding in this area. It's not just our home. It's that road. Our road rarely closes. But that road over there closes all the time. It rains and the road is closed. But that was scary. So anyway, I got my binding, I got flooding. I'm like, oh my word. So anyway, I hope you guys are keeping safe. We all got it. 2020 is coming to an end soon. We have blessedly survived. Others haven't. And our hearts go out to the families who are enduring such agony and such pain and such heartache this year. But we are trying to find I always say we're trying to find joy, and there is joy to be found in every day. The sun is shining here. It's not raining. I'm very joyful. Anyway, I'll just put my camera up and I'll show you a few little bits, whatever this video is. So again, thank you so much, all my YouTube family. I really appreciate it. Love from the Trueloves. All right, see ya. This woods here, and what is it, about 100 yards away, there's this bridge and a small creek. And the creek overflowed its banks several weeks ago, as you saw. Flooded our home. Where I'm standing was about 2 foot of water, and it was a complete ocean up until about 4 or 5 foot away from our front door. Rushing water floods. This area is prone to flooding, and I don't know if you can see, there's over there somewhere, there's telephone poles that were over here for years. We're laying here in this ditch here, right here. You can see, actually. You can see where the telephone poles had been laying for years. And the authority was to put the telephone poles up into the woods there further, because they're going to apparently widen this road. Well, those telephone poles in the flood that we just had were like toothpicks, and they ended up over there. There was about 5 of them. Now, this, up until 2-3 weeks ago, was fully woods. This area here that's all been cleared out by the county. It looked like that. It looked like that. Now my son owns these woods 5 acres back, but it ends about here. So this is the county's property here. So this area was choked with trees and brush, and it was not allowing the water to flow under the bridge here. So this has been by the county just cleared away right now. There's the culprit of our flooding issue. This little tiny creek bed here, which was a raging river. Now here's the old stone bridge that is going to be replaced. I spoke with a gentleman from the county. I came out and I asked him what was going on. This little bridge here, which is, look at this. It was established in 1911. These James Cruzen, Adam Saylor, the commissioners of this township here where we live, put this keystone, cornerstone, whatever, little monument. And I said, what's going to happen? I said to the gentleman, what's going to happen to this piece of marble here, or whatever, limestone or whatever? He said, oh, he doesn't know. I'm like, well, we'll take it. Because if it's being replaced by like a prefab bridge, that he told us, probably something a bit ugly. I said, what's going to happen to this lovely monument to the builders of this bridge? And he said, maybe the township will take it. I said, so I'm going to follow that up, because wouldn't that be a cool thing to have, you know, in our home? Because our house was, this bridge was built in 1911. Our home over there was built in 1940. Our home was up there through the woods there. But here's the culprit of of our flooding. Now it flooded, those woods were completely flooded. And again, as I said, we have had about 300-year floods in the last 5 years. It's crazy. So here's across the street. It's beautiful, beautiful flowing bridge. I mean, flowing water, creek. But that whole entire area was flooded. So here's the bridge from underneath. How beautiful is that? 110-year-old bridge. How lovely. Big trees have been cut down, as you can see. These trees have just been cut down. But that archway is not big enough. So I suppose the new bridge will span this entire area here. I'm not quite sure if they're going to shore up the banks here. But they have been cutting trees down.
I think the bridge will be generally the same size, but just this archway will just be a lot bigger for a lot more water to flow through.
It makes a lot of sense, because it sort of gets bottled up at this area right here.
Yes, maybe it'll just be a taller bridge, maybe.
I don't know.
Like,
he said, the man said it's going to be a prefabricated bridge, which means what? I don't know.
It's pretty much like a Lego set.
Oh, okay.
So you're pretty much building a Lego set for a prefab bridge.
Right.
You're just building a Lego set.
Right. Beautiful bridge. It's going to be going away with, but if it helps with the flooding, bye-bye. So I've walked up to the bridge to see some progress, and as you can see, there is the new telephone pole that's gone on. It's gone in, that was being driven in the other day. So I think since it's been put back, what, 10 foot off the road, there's the original one. This is a new one. Maybe this is how the bridge is being widened. There's, trying to go slow over here. Oh, they did pull it out. There's a new telephone pole. These telephone poles were bobbing away like toothpicks in the flood. But this is what I wanted to show you. So this is where a pole goes. This is what I wanted to show you. Such a pretty bridge. The source of all of our headaches. I don't know why I'm laughing. It was horrible. Because maybe it's up here. It's such a picturesque little road. Although I hope our road, which as you can see is in sort of the country here, doesn't become a fast road. It is a double yellow line, and in America, a double yellow line means it's you can't pass. You obviously can't pass on this road. This is what I wanted to show you. Okay. This is This has been spray painted, some kind of storm, but this is what I wanted to show you. Okay, what does that say? 10 foot. The water came up 10 foot at this point. I don't know what that means, 36 RCP. I don't know what that means, but the water, this entire area here, if you can see, it goes down into those, that stand of woods there. It was entirely underwater. So it came up just so the crest of the bridge wasn't flooded. This entire area here. We live next to this beautiful horse farm, as you can see. And this entire area here was a lake. Well, and they've obviously put a channel there from there. They have a little spring house. They have a little spring house there, that little white building. So there's a natural spring that feeds into that channel there. But this was entirely underwater. So I hope, as you can see, this bridge is a crumbling mess. And I think it's interesting that we have with our trash disposal, there's obviously large, huge trash trucks that come to pick up our bins, and we are the last home before this bridge on this coming here, and there's a crossroads up there, which is a little bit of a busier road. Our trash trucks have to back up to pick up they turn around in that road, and they back up to pick up our trash, our rubbish bins up there, because this bridge isn't strong enough to take the large trash trucks. So this is exciting. They are working on our bridge. Now you see that? All of the workers are there. They're working on our bridge. And oh my goodness, on either side of the bridge, big time working on it. Oh, that person. Oh, she moved the cones. Oh, the road was closed and she actually got out and moved the cones. Oh, that was really very, very, very smart of you. The ones that bobbed across the road when it was flooding. Oh, this is exciting. So things are happening. Hopefully it doesn't rain before the bridge gets built. Oh dear, oh dear. So things are happening, folks. Yeah, super. So like I said, this quilt, to my mind, is proving a little bit more difficult to find a binding for. And as I was auditioning my bindings, the first thing I do is when I finish a quilt, after I've done quilting it, when I look for my binding, is I sort of step back and very quickly look at my quilt and ask, what color does my quilt read as? Well, this is a difficult one because I see creams, and then I see pinks, and then I see green. Just at a quick glance, you may see something different. Obviously, it has every color of the rainbow in more pastel shades. So I thought, well, creams, but I don't want to put a frame, which is a binding. I don't want to put a cream frame. So I go to the next most logical, which is like a pink. So I see pinks here, I see pinks here, darker pinks there. And of course, I backed it with this beautiful salmony pink. And I thought, what I had chosen, I pulled it off the floor. It was headed for my scrap bin. Was the actual sides of the quilt backing that I had trimmed off with my batting. So I have these pieces that I could cut down to size of my 2 1/4 inch binding. I've never used the same binding as the backing fabric, but obviously when I went to audition that, I'm like, oh, look how beautiful that looks. That really is very, very, very nice. And of course the back would look exactly the same with the same binding. So that was a real contender. I quite like that. But then I thought, well, I have chosen a darker, more of a medium to dark, sort of a coral for my, and then the sort of a more of a red, orangey red for my cornerstones. I thought, how about a dark, like an orangey red? So I got this one out, which is more of a sparkly, and I thought, well, that probably would look nice. Again, 1/4 of an inch, that's a little bit wide, as a very big dark border, and that reads as a solid. But I quite like that too. But I think, is it too dark? Then what do? I found this fabric. Now this might be very unexpected, you might say. I found this in my stash. This is like a stripe. As you know, I love my stripes. This is like a rainbow stripe of sort of every color that's in this quilt. So I thought, well, obviously that's obnoxious looking, this against here. But when you're using only a 1/4 of an inch, I auditioned that and thought, well, what does that look like? Just a little tiny bit of a frame around the edge of my quilt there. And believe it or not, because I have a pieced border, it's only ending up an inch wide or so, I almost sort of quite liked that one. It sort of adds a little bit of patterned interest to the outside of my quilt. But then again, I thought these are more sherbety tones, more sort of a bubblegummy sweet, whereas this is more like of a shabby chic, more classically soft colors. Not shabby chic as much, but not quite as saturated as this. I'm thinking, oh my word. So what do? I'm thinking, well, I'm having a bit of difficult time, so I'm actually going to go get I've always touted my color wheel, right? I love my color wheels. So I thought, well, my color, I'm going by the biggest color, which is this salmony pink. So I literally go to my salmon pink here on my color wheel. You know, it's almost identical, and you go across. So my complementary, or what's called a split complementary, let me just see over here, it's called a complementary on a color wheel. It's a whole science of color that's easy to the eye in a scientific method. So this color here, my salmon pink, my complementary color would be the pure color, which is this green, okay? And I go in my stash, and look what I find. Something fell. I find my green and white stripe. Now, you know, I did not do this on purpose. You know, I love my striped bindings. I think it adds a happy touch, a whimsical, almost like a carnival. It lifts a quilt, a striped binding. When you think of a big top, it is a fun, stripy effect. But I had this green, not like a blue green, not like a Kelly green, not a dark green. I had this green, and believe it or not, that green is the exact color on the color wheel that should complement this color, this backing. So I thought, why didn't I audition my stripe like I always do anyway? So here is my stripe, if I was going to use it, of my binding, and look at that. I just love that. I love that. Now it's gonna read different on every bit because my border is all different fabrics. It's a pieced border of all the different fabrics, but I quite love the green and white stripe. Isn't that funny? I should have gone to that initially. But again, I always say I'm a little bit of a one-trick pony. I always do rounded corners and striped bindings, whatever. But I really do like that. And according to science, this color here goes with that color there. I love my color wheel. You need to get a color wheel, folks, because if you're not quite sure of what colors go together, you might like a focal fabric, and then you love a fabric, and then you're lost. Like, well, what colors do I do? Get a color wheel. Let the color wheel do the trick. Now I know that this color here will go beautifully with my binding there. Physically or you know, optically to the eye, it'll look good. So that was my decision. I'm going to go with the green and white stripe. It's gonna lift the quilt into like a as opposed to like soft and sweet and beautiful, just a little touch of like bright happiness. So that's the thing. I have finished quilting my quilt. The whole thing, all my blocks, all my squares. I have decided I'm not going to be quilting these little squares there, cornerstones, because I don't feel like it. But now what I'm doing is I'm just smoothing everything out, and the only pins that I have left on my quilt are the ones on this outside border here. And what I do is before I put my binding on, what I do, again, everything is straight in front of me. I secure the edges here, and then what I will do is I will cut away the batting and the backing, and then I put my binding on. I've just taken my quilt off my machine, where it's been for weeks now, trying to quilt this beast. It's all done, and I just have secured around the edges. I've decided I'm not going to be quilting in this little small border here. It's not necessary, because when I put my binding on, it'll only be 1/2 inch or so. This quilt's been quilted every 1/2 inch to 1 inch all over the entire top. I don't know if you can see, but there's sort of a feather quilting around here. I secured the quilting, I secured the white, and then I did like an echo stitch. I did around the plates, and then I did the loops and the circles in my plates here. So now what I'm doing with a nice pair of sharp scissors, I'm just making sure that the backing is nice and pulled out from the, so I'm not cutting anything, just squaring, just putting this nice in front of me, and I'm cutting about a 1/4 inch away from that line there on the backing. Where I've stitched it right there. And that when I go to put my binding on, I will attach my binding to the back of my quilt, and then I have that nice line that I can follow, and then when I go to turn it around, when I turn the binding to the front, I again have that nice line that I can follow. So I'm just going to finish up just cutting my backing and my batting off nice. And a lot of people are like, you know, having to square up a quilt at the end of the day. I don't know what that means, because my quilts always end up square. Again, this is just 20 blocks, 18 inches. My sashing is the same size. I just sort of turn it, you know, folded it one way and fold it the other. My corners always sort of match up. If they don't, if they're 1/2 inch off or whatever, it's fine. Oh, here I did put my pins. I forgot to take these pins off. So I'll take these pins out from my pin basting, and then I'll finish cutting up. I'll finish cutting off the rest of my my backing and my batting here. So yeah, just finish that up. And then I'll be choosing my binding. Oh, it's lovely. Yeah, it's super. Don't know what kind of binding I'm going to put on yet. Got to figure that out. All right.